I'd already failed many times, but as soon as I got home, everyone was waiting for me. They had kidnapped and tied up my family, and I was supposed to be the victim. The bullies tried to hit me with bats, but my punch was so strong that it crushed all of them. The first one who came at me had his face smashed in, while the boss was terrified, wondering how a boy could be this strong. On his knees, the man begged for just one more month. In response, the aggressor states that debts must be paid, even if it means selling an organ or two. He then squeezes the debtor's shoulder, saying that maybe a little pain will make him understand how he feels. Just then, the woman starts using her phone, and the aggressor notices the movement. Suspiciously, he asks if she's calling the police and says it would be useless. The screen shows a message from their son, and the reply being typed told him not to come home. Without hesitation, the man suggests that instead of this mess, they should settle things directly with the couple's son. His henchmen then grab the couple, who beg for their son to be left alone. Losing patience, the leader orders his men to shut them up so they don't make any noise. As the woman is tied up, the boss comments that he wouldn't want their son to get scared. From his hiding spot, he announces the boy has arrived. Outside, a young student approaches the front door. Inside, one of the men covers the mother's mouth as she begs them to stop. A moment later, the young man enters the hallway, where several men are waiting in ambush. And GT. He announces he's home while taking off his shoes. Without warning, one of the henchmen lunges from behind with a baseball bat. The blow then strikes the back of the boy's head with full force. Restrained and gagged, the mother watches the scene unfold. However, the student turns and grabs the attacker's arm. In a swift move, he smashes the man's face with the same bat. The henchman's body collapses to the floor in front of the boss and the young man's parents. In silence, the leader stares at his subordinate's body lying on the ground. Confused, he questions what the hell is happening. With effort, the student slowly gets up as his body recovers from the attack. Annoyed, the boss orders his men to get him and kill him. NGT. Without a second thought, a man lunges with a pipe, but the young man dodges the blow. He then counterattacks with a direct punch to the aggressor's abdomen, the student's hand shattering the man's ribs. The impact throws the henchman's head back. Right after, another tries a high kick, but the student catches his foot in midair. In response, he twists the man's leg and hits him with a sidekick. From behind, another attacker strikes with a chair. Still, that same man is thrown against the wall next to the boss. Terrified, the leader watches his men being defeated all around him and wonders what's going on. With no other choice, he pulls out a knife and runs toward the boy's father. Without hesitating, the boss grabs the young man's father, yelling they'll see how tough he is, but a clothes iron flies in his direction. In a direct hit, the student smashes the iron into the leader's face, making him drop the knife. The young man then slams the object against the attacker's head, breaking through the wall. With his head stuck through the concrete, the leader begs for help, screaming for someone to call 911. Still, he keeps pleading for help while the student just watches amidst the bodies of his henchmen. Afterward, the young man kneels and starts untying his parents. Coldly, he states that if they didn't want him to fight, they shouldn't have been so poor in the first place. Losing his strength, Sianu collapses to the floor, and his mother screams his name. In the emergency room, doctors and nurses rush to treat the numerous injured people crying out for help. Nearby, a man in a suit is talking on the phone at the reception desk. Curious, he asks the woman beside him about the commotion, and she explains that a kid beat up 10 loan sharks who were assaulting his father. She then adds that he's just a high school student. In one of the rooms, the injured boss orders them to find and kill the boy, but a subordinate calms him down, saying the victim was taken to the same hospital. Confidently, he claims to have sent the Great Bear after the kid, assuring him he's already dead. Alert, the man in the suit overhears the name, the Great Bear. Without wasting time, he asks the receptionist which room the boy is in, and she tells him it's 2102. Hurrying, he runs down the hall, stating that the Great Bear is a main event fighter candidate, and that this is a good chance to test his worth. Arriving at Sianu Kang's room door, he admits to feeling sorry for the unlucky kid who got mixed up in this. Inside the room, Sianu comes face to face with a gigantic man. Surprised, the man can't believe they called him there just to beat up a kid like him. Indifferently, he says it's nothing personal, just business. With a slight smirk, the giant comments that Sianu is an interesting little boy. He notices that the young man doesn't show the slightest sign of fear. Determined to show the boy what fear is, the giant raises his arm to strike, but Sianu lunges forward first with a straight punch. Still, his opponent hits him right after, throwing him to the ground. From a distance, the observer concludes the kid didn't stand chance. With contempt, the attacker says he doesn't care about the boy's craziness, claiming that being fearless won't get him anywhere. Even so, Sianu gets up and the giant questions if he's already on his feet. Without backing down, the student replies that he can keep talking because his punches are nothing. Annoyed, the giant retorts that all this talk will just make killing him more fun, and then he charges. Outside, the man in the suit senses the murderous intent and decides he must stop him. In the room, the giant throws a punch, but Sienna dodges under the blow and counters with a spinning kick to his opponent's face. Surprised, the man in the suit remembers that no one has ever managed to take down the great bear before. As the giant falls to his knees, he reflects that this shouldn't be happening so easily, and GT, since the fighter has one of the strongest physiques in the country. Outraged, the giant asks if the boy really thought a student's kick could knock him out. In response, Sienu delivers an axe kick straight to his adversary's head. Stunned, the man in the suit can't believe what he's seeing. Giving him no room, the student unleashes a series of punches to the fallen opponent's face. Still, the giant manages to grab Sienu mid-attack. Frustrated, he regrets having to use his finishing move on a mere student. Outside, the observer recognizes the move as the bone crusher and decides he has to stop him. Screaming, the great bear declares, "This is what the boy deserves." Immediately, the man runs toward the door, yelling for him to stop. Inside the room, the giant applies the lock, twisting Sienu's body. Then, he feels something is wrong, as he used all his strength. Against all odds, Sienu starts to get up from the hold. Confused, the attacker asks how he can still move and why his bones are still intact. Without answering right away, the young man grabs the giant's face and warns that this time he'll crush him to pieces. In desperation, the giant struggles but can't apply any pressure, asking himself why his grip has no effect. In a direct response, the student headbutts him in the face. Grumbling, the giant claims the boy's skull must be made of steel. Giving no ground, Sienu punches him again, slamming his opponent's face into the glass floor. Without stopping, Sienu continues to punch the fallen giant repeatedly. Just then, the man in the suit enters the room and orders him to stop, as his opponent is already unconscious. Approaching cautiously, he asks the young man to calm down. He then explains that a bigger mess will be much harder to clean up. Soon after, he makes a call, reporting a patient in room 202 with a head injury from a car accident, requesting immediate assistance. Confused, Sienu asks who he is and if he's on the giant's side. Without hesitation, the man denies it, stating that he'd actually rather be on the young man's side if possible. In disbelief, the student asks what the hell he's talking about. At that moment, a team in hazmat suits enters the room. One of the members confirms the patient's identity and assures them they'll take care of everything. The man in the suit then asks if it's possible to keep the great bear unconscious for now, and the medical team confirms it will be done. Still suspicious, Sienu asks who all these people are. Calmly, the man offers him a card, saying that if he worked for his boss, he can have anything he wants. Furthermore, he states that all he needs to do is fight for him. Without a second thought, the student crumples the card and tells the man to get lost. He then throws the paper in the trash, making it clear he has no interest in fighting for money. From a distance, the man watches the young man walk away and mutters to himself that his mind will surely change. In the bathroom, Sienu splashes water on his face. Facing the mirror, he stares at his own reflection and laments that even though his life is a mess, he still wants to keep his promise to never become a thug. Just then, his father walks in and asks what he's doing there. He then asks where he thinks he's going in his condition. Unable to hold back his frustration, the question arises of whose fault it is that he's in this situation. Bitterly, the young man recalls his father claiming to be a boxing champion with offers from teams and confronts him about why they're drowning in debt. He continues, asking if it was too humiliating for a former champion to open a small neighborhood boxing gym. Finally, Sienu asks if his father's pride is more important than his own suffering wife. Without answering, the man just tells him to be quiet and not to leave the hospital before he goes. Alone, the student watches the door close and admits to himself that he hates his father. He then collapses to the floor, holding his head, wondering if he just hasn't slept enough. He quickly concludes the pain isn't from exhaustion, but from his father, whom he hates. He can't stand seeing him get hurt all the time just so they can survive. He also can't stand watching his father kneel before the bully's parents whenever there's a fight because he doesn't want to depend on him in any way. After all, he doesn't want his father to think he's done his part while he remains trapped in this hell. As a teenager, he can't even get a job on a fishing boat to turn things around and pay the daily expenses. When a man tried to recruit him, he simply sent him away, claiming to be busy. To make matters worse, those same bullies dug an even deeper hole for him. And as much as he hates his father, he can't leave because of his mother, feeling his own life is a pit of despair. Confused, he wonders if he passed out again and why he's in a different ward. Sitting on the bed, He grabs his phone to check how long he's been unconscious. The message says it's time to tell him everything and asks him to meet tonight. Shocked, Sianu wonders what his father has been hiding. He then remembers his mother and starts to worry about her. Without wasting time, he quickly calls her, asking if she's okay. On the other end, his mother answers and tells him not to come home as the thugs are still waiting for them. She explains that he's safe in a different room under a fake name. Worried, Sianu asks about her, and she quickly replies that she's at a motel near a police station and has to go. Before hanging up, she asked him not to leave the hospital for now and to take care. Overcome with guilt, he starts to blame himself for everything, repeating to himself that if he hadn't fought back, none of this would have happened. His mind made up, he concludes he needs to find his mother and runs toward the room's exit. On the way, his phone rings with a call from his father. When he answers, an unknown voice asks if he is Mr. Kang's son. Confused, he asks who's calling. On the other end, the man informs him it's an emergency as Mr. Kang fell from a building and is unconscious. At a construction site, his father is seen lying on the ground surrounded by other workers. Back at the hospital, Sianu watches his father lying in bed, completely bandaged and hooked up to several machines. A doctor explains that the necessary surgery is complex and will 100 million won in addition to requiring years of rehabilitation. The news leaves him completely devastated. Defeated, he sits in a corner of the room asking himself what he should do. Desperate, he questions how he'll ever raise that much money. At that moment, the image of him throwing away the business card he received earlier flashes through his mind. He then remembers the card left in the trash can. With that, he realizes he has to go back to that room and runs toward the door of room 202. Rushing, he enters the room looking for the trash can. However, when he picks it up, he realizes the business card is gone. Powerless, he falls to his knees beside the trash can, blaming only himself. Through tears, Sianu apologizes for being so useless. In despair, he tells himself he doesn't deserve to live. Just then, a voice asks if he happens to be looking for this as the man in the suit appears holding the card. Calmly, he asks if he's had a change of heart. Crying, Sianu asks how much he can make if he works for him. In response, the man states that if he wins, he'll earn at least 10 billion, adding that he doesn't even need to win the tournament to get rich and become popular. Calmly, the man in the suit hands over ANGT, asking him to read it carefully before signing. Confused, Sianu Kang asks what this so-called combat wing is. The explanation is direct. It's a secret fighting tournament where competitors use hospital-provided substances to gain physical abilities. Hearing this, the young man refuses the offer, stating that he doesn't do drugs. In response, the box on the table is opened, revealing several vials lined up inside. Without rushing, one is picked up. He explains they aren't common drugs. They can give incredible strength, even to an old man on the verge of death. Still, he makes it clear that using the substances is not mandatory. Seizing the moment, Sianu asks who he really is. The man introduces himself as Min-Si Kim, a recruiter for a VIP in the combat wing. Ignoring the young man's reaction, Min-Si Kim continues to explain how they will work together. He says that upon entering the tournament, it's possible to choose a sponsor if you make it into the top 20. Next comes the proposal. Sianu can choose a VIP client as a sponsor, and they'll work together to win the tournament. After thinking it over, the young man agrees as long as he gets the money up front. But he quickly adds that this is almost impossible since payment only comes from the tournament itself. Annoyed, Sianu Kang asks why he should work with someone under these conditions. Calmly, the man tells him to relax, reminding him that he still needs money for his father's surgery and a safe place to stay. Surprised, the young man asks how he knows all of that. Without hesitation, Min-Si Kim offers to cover his father's medical expenses and provide housing while he fights for his boss. He adds that just like Sianu, they don't have many options either. At that moment, the phone rings. The young man answers and starts talking to his mother. He quickly tells her he'll call back. Taking advantage of the pause, the recruiter adds that they will also protect him from the loan sharks. In the middle of asking how he could trust them, Sianu's phone rings again. He looks at the screen and sees it's his mother. Answering the call, he asks what's going on. His mother tells him that his father's surgery has already been paid for and that some bodyguard have shown up because of him. Then, Min-Si Kim informs him that the safe place is ready, so there's no need to worry about her. Hearing this, Sianu tells his mother he hired the bodyguards and asks her to do exactly as they say, promising he'll be there soon. The call ends, and a question immediately comes to mind. What is really at stake for the prize to be 10 billion won? In response, Min-Si Kim explains that the 10 billion is just the starting amount. He adds that depending on how much is bet on him, the winnings can be even greater, mentioning champions who have taken home over 15 billion. In disbelief, the young man says that's impossible, but the man in front of him assures him it's not. He then considers that in reality, It might not even be enough given everything the fighters risk. That's because most participants either die or are permanently disabled during the competition. In the last tournament, only 10% managed to walk away unscathed. He continues explaining that the first order of business is to create an alibi for the participant's death. Hearing this, Sianu Kong repeats the words, questioning the idea of an alibi for his own death. Incredulously, he says it makes no sense for the tournament to be a secret when so many people die. To this, Min-sik Kim clarifies that the secret only exists because everyone involved ends up dead. Pointing to the contract, he says that the first thing to be done after signing is to use the hospital, a place where it's easy to fabricate someone's cause of death. To create the alibi, he explains they need the person to be filmed by a camera, make a purchase, or do something that places them at a specific location. Without backing down, Sianu Kong confronts him asking what would happen if he decided to tell the police everything. Calmly, Min-sik Kim states that wouldn't be a problem. It's easy to make him look like an addict or someone unstable in GT, and no one would believe a student with no proof. With a slight smile, he adds that it doesn't even matter, as Sianu will be declared dead before he even gets the chance to report it. Finally, he says that this is precisely the advantage of having a hospital host the tournaments. Reinforcing his point, the recruiter makes it clear that the final decision belongs to Sianu. Then, the contract is placed on the table, once more along with the question of whether he's still willing to sign. In a calm tone, Min-sik Kim begins to say that he could take a few days to think it over. Before he can finish, Sianu signs the contract, demanding only that they keep their word. Immediately, a wide smile spreads across Min-sik Kim's face. In that instant, a nurse approaches from behind with a syringe and injects a sedative into his neck. In a reflex, he grabs her arm asking what's happening. Without changing his tone, the recruiter explains there's no need to worry. They're just sedating him to take him to the arena. Then comes the warning. They will only take care of his parents as long as he is competing in the tournament. His vision begins to darken as his mind struggles to understand the situation. As he opens his eyes, the first question that comes to mind is whether he's already dead. Upon waking completely, he sees a person in a strange suit and wonders where he's being taken. Soon after, his body is wheeled at high speed down a hallway toward a door. When they stop, he asks the figure accompanying him where he is. In response, the masked figure orders him to be silent, stating that everything will soon become clear. Finally, he hears the words that seal the moment. Welcome to hell. Inside a large commercial building at the Hyunsong Group headquarters, a meeting is underway. Attentive Director Yi Cha, the group's second son, listens to his subordinate's report. Calmly, he states that he understands the boy defeated the Great Bear. Still, looking at a photo of Sianu Kong, he questions if they really want to recruit him as their main fighter. Without hesitation, Min-sik Kim confirms the decision, even knowing the director's brother, the vice president, might mock them for it. Next, Yi Cha asks for the reason behind such a choice. In response, the subordinate explains that his brother is obsessed with the combat wing, and they need to appear weak to lure him into a bet. Thoughtfully, the director asks if he truly believes that boy is the key to defeating his own brother. With conviction, Min-sik Kim reports that he examined Sianu's body after he survived the Great Bear strike. He then states that what he found was something extraordinary. Curious, Yi Cha asks what exactly was discovered. Meanwhile, Sianu awakens in an unknown place with a foot coming toward him. A man tries to step on him, but one of the armed guards orders him to back away. Awkwardly, the man raises his hands and says it was just a joke. Just then, a drone approaches and confirms the player is conscious, making Sianu wonder what that means. Confused, he kneels and questions where he is and why he's wearing a school uniform. Soon after, the drone announces the start of the first round of random fights. In a neutral tone, the device explains this phase will serve as a qualifier to decide who enters the main battle arena. Then, a machine opens, revealing a syringe. Finally, the drone informs them that each player will receive a random drug to enhance one ability. It also announces that the betting table for the VIPs is officially open. Faced with this, Sianu's opponent takes the applicator from the machine and follows the instructions to administer the substance. At that moment, Sianu remembers he has already broken his promise to graduate, but remains determined to keep his vow of never using drugs. Suddenly, he turns upon hearing a scream. The syringe falls to the floor, now covered in blood. The other man celebrates, yelling that he received a power drug. Attentively, Sianu watches the scene and wonders what is happening to the man. Without warning, the opponent rushes forward and attacks with a kick. The impact sends Sianu flying into the wall, which shatters from the force of the blow. As he recovers, Sianu realizes the man is completely different and wonders if the drug strengthened his muscles. Soon after, The drone announces that Cheol-han has successfully enhanced his power as he celebrates, saying luck is on his side again. In an ecstatic tone, he laments not being able to go out and teach a lesson to everyone who called him scrawny. He then turns to Seonukong and asks how he should kill him. Without hesitation, Seonu lands a quick punch to his face. Irritated, Cheol-han asks if this is a joke and if he really thinks he's better. Paying attention to the details, Seonu notices his opponent's reaction speed remains the same. With that, he rushes forward to close the distance between them. However, Cheol-han lands a powerful punch that hits him square on. With his face bleeding, Seonu can barely react to the speed of the attacks. In an effort, he dodges the next blow with a backflip. Still, Cheol lands a powerful punch to his chest, sending him flying. In midair, he grabs him and claims he can defeat him with brute force alone. Without mercy, Cheol-han slams him headfirst into the ground. Excited, he celebrates, saying how fun it is to crush him. He then leaps high into the air, yelling that he's the strongest now. Filled with hatred, he vows to knock all the idiots off their pedestals. Finally, he delivers a powerful knee strike directly to Seonu's head. Brutally, he stomps on Seonukong's chest, shattering the ground around him even more. In a cruel tone, he states that if he's going to crush something, it might as well be his ribcage. In a flashback, Min-soo Kim recalls examining the boy's body after he survived the Great Bear's attack. On that occasion, what he found proved to be extraordinary. Confused, Wei Cha questions him, unable to understand. Firmly, Min-soo Kim explains that Seonu was 10 times stronger than an ordinary human. Furthermore, in terms of bone density, he could no longer be considered human, being completely off any chart. Back in the present, Seonu grabs Cheol-han's leg. Seizing the opening, he lands a direct kick to his opponent's chin. Surprised, Cheol-han wonders how he survived without using any drugs, concluding that perhaps he hasn't gotten used to his own strength yet. Lying on the ground, Seonu notices his opponent is slower, likely because his stamina wasn't enhanced. With this in mind, he believes he can hit his face if he avoids being grabbed, using quick jabs instead of heavy blows. Without hesitation, he rushes toward Cheol-han. Prepared, his opponent yells that he's only come back for another beating. With agility, Seonu dodges the blow, which hits nothing but air. He follows up by connecting a direct punch to his opponent's face. Keeping the rhythm, he dodges an attempt to grab him. Right after, he lands another clean hit on his opponent's face. Giving no room, he continues with a series of fast, precise punches. Under the impact, Cheol-han falls to the ground, completely knocked out. Seeing the opening, Seonu prepares to deliver the final blow. Suddenly, his opponent recovers and grabs his arms tightly. With a strained smile, Cheol-han reveals he let the punches land on purpose to capture him. Suspicious, Seonu questions this, but the response comes as a taunt, asking if he really thought he wouldn't have allowed him to get that close. Then he asks if Seonu knows why kangaroos pin their opponent's arms before attacking. With his arms immobilized, Cheol delivers a violent headbutt. However, the impact ends up knocking out Cheol-han himself, who falls unconscious to the ground. Still conscious, he tries to crawl across the floor, muttering that he can't get up. Frustrated, he punches the ground and wonders why his own body won't obey him. Desperate, he screams that it's impossible to lose to someone who didn't use any drugs. Looking at the other syringe, he claims a single dose wasn't enough to unleash his full talent. Crawling across the floor, he reaches the machine and grabs the second syringe. Realizing the danger, Seonu moves forward, understanding he must stop him from using the drug that was meant for him. Without a second thought, the young man leaps toward him to try and stop him. Still, Cheol-han administers the second injection, and the drone announces his stamina has been enhanced. Right after, he strikes Seonu from behind, sending him flying. His body hits the ground, and his head is immediately grabbed by his opponent. Furious, Cheol lifts him into the air, yelling and asking who called him a thug. He then jumps and slams him headfirst into the ground with all his might. Even so, Cheol-han shoos the drone away, stating that he's not finished yet. Standing over Seonu's body, he declares he's going to do something different as he's tired of always getting beaten up. He then locks the young man in a chokehold from behind, saying this is exactly what it feels like. The pressure increases as he states that he knows stubborn rats like him need to be finished off once and for all. As his strength fades, Seonu starts to lose consciousness and calls out for his father. Seonukong and Cheol-han remain motionless on the shattered ground. At that moment, the drone announces the game has ended with the death of a player. Staring at his laptop screen, Wei Cha watches the scene and questions what happened to that participant. Min-soo Kim casually explains it was all due to an overdose. He then adds that the survival rate for using 2 types of drugs is less than 0.5%. Before this, Cheol-han had already successfully used the power drug. However, when he injected the stamina booster meant for Sianu, death became inevitable. Hearing this, Yang Cha concludes the opponent took his own life and admits that Sianu is a lucky kid. In response, Min-Soo Kim argues that calling it simple luck would be irrational considering the unusual nature of the young man's body. Yang retorts that it might just mean stronger bones and reminds him that there are far stronger monsters still in the tournament. At this, Min-Soo Kim explains that current drugs can enhance muscles, organs, and hormones, but there is one exception. According to him, stronger bones cannot be obtained with these substances, which points to a special reason behind it. After some thought, Yang decides they will test his usefulness on the main stage and asks what's next on the kid's schedule. Min-Soo Kim replies that since Sianu passed the drug-related test round, he will proceed to the next phase. Before that, however, he will receive treatment for his injuries and only then will he fight again. From then on, he will face all the monsters who may have acquired unknown powers. In the combat ward's treatment room, Sianu sits in silence. With his head bowed, he remains motionless for a few moments. In his thoughts, he wonders if Cheol really died because of him since he only meant to knock him out. He then remembers that he was the one who was about to die just a moment ago. His father's voice echoes in his mind, telling him to get a grip. Then comes the memory that he is the only one who can save his family. A short while later, the drone announces that the winners of the previous round must proceed to the lobby. One of the medics informs him that the guide will explain everything he needs to know and that he must follow all instructions. Finally, a warning comes not to try anything as the guides are armed with a lethal weapon. The drone then flies toward a passageway, and Sianu starts to follow it. Along the way, he follows it down a corridor that opens into something resembling a cave. Faced with the scene, he wonders what kind of place this is. He gradually deduces that the entire underground structure was built to prevent any escape attempts. As he moves forward, he regrets not even being able to call his mother. He then remembers the deal that keeps his parents safe in GT, and understands he must survive at all costs. Reflecting, he realizes this wasn't the fight he imagined. Outside, he believed he was the only monster. Here, however, even a simple neighborhood bully displays absurd strength. With that, he begins to wonder how many other monsters exist in this place. At that moment, the drone announces that the player has arrived and the lobby will now open. One of the doors opens, causing him to turn and watch. Dozens of other drones fly out from the same location. Then, one of them reports that all players have now entered the lobby. Shortly after, the game is officially announced to begin with a total of 124 participants. Everyone is instructed to gather in front of the screen for the briefing to begin. Looking around, Sianu sizes up the other competitors and defines them as monsters. He quickly realizes they are completely different from the opponent he faced in the first round. Given this, he decides to keep a low profile until the official match begins, avoiding any unnecessary injuries. A moment later, a huge man approaches and asks how he got here, suggesting he could play with him. Uncomfortable, Sianu regrets that his uniform draws so much attention and hopes the briefing starts soon. Meanwhile, two competitors comment that he's only here because his opponent took both drugs and died. One of them adds that he's still wearing a school uniform, saying the rich probably wanted to see something tragic happen. The other claims to be bored and wonders if he shouldn't have some fun with the kid. Before he can move forward, his companion stops him, saying someone has already claimed him. Hearing his name, Sianu turns around. A large man demands an answer, asking again if he wants to play. Faced with silence, the aggressor's hand grabs his head, stating there's no choice but to kill him. In that instant, Sianu understands that to survive against these people, he'll need to take things to a whole new level. And just like that, he dodges the Great Bear's attack. Sianu swiftly dodges the hand coming at him. Confused, Big Bear asks what's going on as Mr. Kong steps between them. Without hesitating, he extends his arm, telling them to stop right there. In response, his wrist is grabbed tightly. An aggressive voice demands to know who he is. Mr. Kong firmly states that Sianu is just a kid. He braces himself for the inevitable confrontation. The large man scoffs, asking if he really thinks he can take him on with just one enhanced arm. He continues to taunt, asking if he'd do all this for a useless kid. Trying to get away, Sianu ignores the commotion and backs up a few steps. Then, Big Bear declares he's going to kill him, and that he can die for the kid. Unable to just watch anymore, Sianu rushes toward them. Suddenly, an attack hits Big Bear head-on. Surprised, Sianu stares at what just happened. The body hits the floor, and a drone announces that the briefing will begin shortly, prohibiting attacks outside the designated time. It adds that any violation will result in immediate execution. Hearing this, Sianu wonders how they can just kill someone without warning and if it's even possible to get out of here alive. A moment later, he turns at a loud noise. On the screen, a figure appears welcoming all the survivors. He gets straight to the point, explaining that the drug test round had no eliminations, but from now on, losers will be eliminated. He clarifies that elimination means being physically unable to fight. Despite the risks, he says they are all there for the 10 billion won prize. With that announcement, the crowd erupts in celebration. Silently, Sunu reflects that with that money, his family could finally have a decent life. Next, the figure informs them that only one person can claim the grand prize. However, he adds that anyone who makes it to the top 16 alive will receive 5% of the total amount bet by the VIPs. Excited, one of the competitors cheers, saying he'll take both the prize and the betting money. The host adds that each player will have a personal broadcast channel and a guide who will act as their camera. He says the VIPs will watch the channels of the players they plan to bet on. In short, he states that the more attention they get, the more money they can earn, hoping they'll many VIPs. He then announces that 5-person dorms are now available, and they are free to choose their roommates. Everyone is instructed to go to their rooms with the assurance that any further questions will be answered by their guides. As they walk, 2 competitors comment that they need to find the big shots to attract the VIPs since rooming with a kid won't earn them anything. Hearing this, Sunu realizes it won't be easy to find a room. Just then, Mr. Kong approaches and tells him not to worry. He confidently states that he will protect him until the official tournament begins. Silently, Sunu looks back. He notices a blonde man walking away, wondering if what he heard could be true. Then, Mr. Kong points to a room they can enter without a fight and invites him to come along. Confused, Sunu wonders why he would share a room with someone everyone else is avoiding, especially after getting hurt because of him. Not understanding the man's intentions, he concludes that the situation will be dangerous regardless of which room he chooses. Faced with his hesitation, the man asks if he's coming or not, and the answer comes quickly. "I'm coming." From a distance, the same 2 men from before watch the scene, commenting that they'll surely be at the bottom of the viewership rankings. One of them explains he chose a room next to the players he believes are the most popular just to guarantee some screen time. Agreeing, his companion says those muscular guys will attract VIPs like flies. In the room next door, 3 extremely muscular men sit in silence. The blonde man Sunu saw earlier approaches the door to that room. As soon as he enters, he closes the door behind him. Walking up to one of the men, he comments that the seat looks nice. Then, he tells him to move over a bit. Annoyed, one of the huge guy stands up, questioning him for closing the door before the cameras were in. Lunging forward to attack, he asks if he's begging to die. Without giving him a chance, the blonde man lands a direct hit first. The muscular man falls to the floor defeated. Calmly, the blonde man asks who else would like to greet him. Then, he just tells him to stay quiet like that. Just then, Min-Sik Han, a 19-year-old Kali Arnie's practitioner, states that there's someone else he'd like to greet. Inside a moving car, Woo Young-cha gets a tip. A source claims the vice president is going back to work with a former champion, Kong. Hearing this, he complains that no one else will be able to partner with the champion now. The only option left is just a high school student. Min-Sik Kim then explains that if Sunu makes it to the top 16, a new opportunity to drug him will arise. According to him, because of Sunu's already developed physique, he would get the maximum effect from the enhancement. His bones are 10 times stronger than normal. Plus, after taking the drug, he would become the greatest of all time. Woo Young remarks they'll need to keep him close until then, but he's worried about potential interest from other VIPs. To reassure him, Min-Sik guarantees that won't be a problem for now. He then reveals that the 5 people sharing a room with Sunu had the lowest viewership in the last round. Back in the room, Mr. Kong notes that getting viewers here is going to be a real challenge. He explains that most of the audience will follow the title contenders. However, their group has the only woman in the tournament, Amanda Groch, ranked 23rd, an underrated capoeira and jiu-jitsu fighter. There's also Miho Kim, a smaller-built boxer ranked 25th. Last but not least, there's Minin, ranked 28th, who spent his time screaming about his own elbow. Keeping up this weird behavior, he asks for help to touch his elbow, while Sunu just watches in silence. Noticing the drone, Mr. Kong comments that the guides are there to film. Still, he says they'll need to grab some attention if they want to make any money from the bets. Then he shows off his enhanced arm. Right after, he starts doing one-armed handstand push-ups, counting each rep out loud. Sunu comments that he doesn't think that's going to work. Just then, Amanda Groch stands up. She points at the floor and cracks it with just one finger. Then, she lifts her entire body balancing on that same finger. Watching this, Sunu wonders how someone can lift their own weight with just one finger. As Mr. Kong and Amanda continue their exercises side by side, Sunu asks them to wait a moment. Miho Kim approaches and says that showing off strength is for idiots. Right after, he dashes across the room at incredible speed. Surprised, Sunu asks himself how anyone can be that fast. On the floor, Menon celebrates by screaming that he did it and that he's the best of all. While the other three continue to show off their skills, he finally manages to lick his own elbow. Sunu watches the whole scene, finding it all impressive and ridiculous at the same time. The screen announces that the tournament matchups for the top 124 are finally set. At this, Sunu and his roommates watch the displayed information intently. Among the announcements, his opponent's name appears, a man named Kai. Woo-young-cha then asks if that guy's really as strong as they say. In response, Min-sik Kim states that ever since his days competing in Lethwei, Kai has never lost a single fight. Curious, Woo-young asks what exactly Lethwei is. Min-sik explains it's a Burmese combat sport similar to Muay Thai, but with differences that make it even more brutal and dangerous. Unconvinced, Woo-young retorts that Muay Thai is already risky enough since it allows the use of elbows and knees. Still, Min-sik clarifies that in Lethwei, there are additional allowances. In this fighting style, the athletes don't use gloves and headbutts are completely allowed. According to him, a blow with the forehead bone can cause fatal injuries, which is why most combat sports ban this type of attack. However, Min-sik points out that this isn't the most dangerous aspect of the sport. What truly makes Lethwei lethal is the permission to strike the back of the neck and the spine, which can result in paralysis or even death. That's why, Min-sik concludes, Kai has the most real combat experience since he continued to fight for a gang after his sports career ended. Intrigued, Woo-young asks about this gang while Min-sik speculates that Kai wasn't content with just fighting inside the ring. He then says that Kai started challenging famous fighters on the streets until he caught the attention of the criminal group. Woo-young then questions if Sunu will be able to face someone like that. Honestly, Min-sik replies that he has the same doubt. He points out that so far, Sunu has only faced people with no martial arts training whatsoever. Now, however, his opponent is Kai, a 28-year-old Lethwei fighter. The recovery pod opens slowly. As he sits up, Sunu Kong asks how long he's been asleep. Then, he wonders why his body feels so light. He realizes it's not just a feeling when he flexes his arm. Then, it occurs to him that this isn't the first time he's experienced this. The memory takes him back to the fight against the Great Bear. He recalls waking up the same way after that battle. Standing up, he comments that it feels like he's gotten stronger. From another pod, Min-sik Kim tells him not to be surprised. According to him, muscles pushed to their limit without excessive damage tend to recover stronger than before. He adds that Sunu had probably never tested his own strength to that extent. At that moment, the young man realizes he was already at his limit when fighting the Great Bear. Still, Min-sik points out that his recovery is abnormally fast and asks if he used any drugs to speed up the healing. Changing the subject, Sunu says he's wanted to ask a question since yesterday. He then asks why Min-sik is helping him even at the risk of getting injured. In response, Min-sik Kim begins to explain. He reveals that the young man reminds him of his own son. If he had been a better father, he believes his son wouldn't have fallen into such massive debt with loan sharks. Hearing this, Sunu asks if that's why he's in the tournament, and the answer confirms he needs to pay off the debt so his family can get back to normal. Min-sik and GT, saying that seeing him there all alone immediately reminded him of the son he neglected for so long. For that reason, he couldn't just stand by and watch. Sunu then tells him to stop wasting his time on this. He adds that if he really wants to be a good father, he should get out of here and become one. None of this will matter if he ends up dying in this place. Annoyed, Min-sik puts him in a headlock and says he talks as if helping him is the end of the world. Suddenly, a voice exclaims that this can't be right. Menon stares at the large screen and wonders why he isn't fighting in the main arena. As a drone flies by, he shouts that he's a fighter who can touch his own elbow with his tongue. Min-sik explains that only fights with a large number of viewers take place in the main arena, while the others will be held in the same location as the previous round. Following that line of thought, he concludes that their group is the one with the smallest audience. He continues, saying that the fact everyone except Menon is scheduled for the main arena means something important. This indicates their opponents are some of the strongest and most popular fighters in the tournament. Sunu Kong replies that in that case, the situation is even better for them. Confused, Min-sik Kim turns and asks what he means by better. The young man explains that this is the perfect chance to draw attention to their dorm. The older man just mutters that he must be completely insane. Just then, Menon appears and states that they won't just have regular viewers in the main arena. He continues, revealing that 16 VIPs will be there in person, all among the most powerful people in the world. Hearing this, Sunu wonders if the so-called talent scout will be there too. Meanwhile, elsewhere, 3 cars park in front of a large warehouse at night. Woo-young-cha gets out of one of the vehicles and questions why he's in this filthy place since they were told they were going to the main arena. Mr. Kong explains that no one but the organizers knows the combat wing's location, so they likely chose a discreet meeting point. He adds that he noticed that at some point someone besides them started following Sianu's channel. At this, Yu Yun asks if he thinks they're being investigated. A voice replies that there must be a misunderstanding. On the upper floor, Sung Yun Cha, the youngest daughter of the Hosen group, watches the whole scene. She claims she's only there because she found Sianu interesting. Yu Yun demands to know what she's doing there following him like a rat, especially after being kicked out of the company not too long ago. Mr. Kong comments that his younger sister seems extremely interested in everything he does. Furious, Yu Yun shouts that she's not his sister, but just the daughter of a mistress. Sung Yun walks down the stairs and says that's a bit cruel since she didn't even go to school, so she could help her two brothers with the company. Still, she says that thanks to him, she ended up finding this interesting place and thanks him for it. Yu Yun replies that he doesn't know what she's planning, but she'd better disappear right now. Suddenly, a luxury car drives into the warehouse, surprising the three of them. Two people in protective suits get out of the vehicle and announce they will escort them to the main arena. The young woman asks where she is. Before her lies a massive, circular combat security guard explains that below is the main arena and she is in one of the 16 VVIP rooms. Satisfied, Sung Yun says she's finally arrived. She adds that this place is her brother's true playground. In another room, Yu Yun Cha comments that the space is much larger than he imagined. Mr. Kong informs him that as soon as the current fight ends, the match for room 10 will begin. Suddenly, an explosion erupts on the screen in front of them. The broadcast shows Min Su Han pinning an opponent against a destroyed wall. Surprised, Yu Yun asks what kind of monster that is. Mr. Kong identifies him as Min Su Han and notes that there seems to be another fighter around Sianu's age. The man next to him asks if another high school student is participating. However, Mr. Kong clarifies that he dropped out, so technically, he's no longer a student. Still, in GT, he finds it strange that two monsters like them came from the same school. He then reveals that Min Su is from the same high school as Sianu. With Min Su Han's victory, a drone announces that the matches between rooms 9 and 20 have ended and the showdowns between rooms 10 and 3 are now beginning. The participants are then ordered to enter the arena. Min Suk Kim realizes the scale of the combat is completely different from the first round. Then, the drone informs everyone to wait except for the first player, Min Ho Kim. Min Ho takes his position at the arena entrance and prepares himself. As he moves forward, the drone asks the fighters whose matches have ended to leave the area and Min Su Han departs. As he passes Min Ho, Min Su runs a hand through his hair. Watching the scene, Min Suk hopes this doesn't make Min Ho nervous. Suddenly, a rock hits the wall next to Sianu Kong, who wonders where it came from. Min Ho looks back and claims he saw everything. He recalls Min Su pretending to fix his hair while simultaneously throwing the rock at Sianu. Sianu just stares at the point of impact. Min Ho finds it impressive as most people wouldn't have even noticed something moving that fast. He then approaches and calls out to Min Su Han. Min Su turns and asks if the student on his team is really that arrogant. Min Ho simply replies, saying he doesn't think so. Not accepting the answer, the other guy questions what that means. He then adds that it can't be true. In that instant, Min Ho takes a fighting stance. Watching the scene, Min Suk Kim asks what he thinks he's doing. Amanda Grock states that this didn't just happen suddenly. According to her, Min Ho is sensitive enough to notice even the smallest changes, so a murderous intent like that wouldn't go unnoticed. Min Su then releases a strange energy from his body. He then turns and starts to walk away. Confused, Min Ho wonders if he freaked out and just imagined it all, though he's sure that he really had. At that moment, a strange figure appears behind him. Min Ho Kim begins to question if this is all he's capable of now and how he can get revenge being so weak. A voice asks what he's staring at, making him turn around quickly. Before him, his opponent Pice, a wrestler, enters the arena. In one of the private boxes, Yu Go, president of the Snug-On Hotel, questions the choice of Pice since wrestling doesn't involve striking techniques. The assistant explains that no matter how effective a strike is, it becomes useless the moment a wrestler manages to immobilize their opponent. After grabbing their prey, they can apply various techniques like throws and joint locks, which few can withstand. For this reason, many wrestlers excel in mixed martial arts, as it's one of the most essential training bases. After all, someone can hold their own using just their fists, but dealing with an opponent who attacks with their entire body is something else entirely. The assistant adds that this becomes even more decisive when there's such a large size difference. A drone hovers in the air and announces that both players are ready. Soon after, the match between Min Ho Kim and Pice is declared open. With disdain, Pice asks if Min Ho is a boxing rookie, stating he looks like one of those weaklings who've never fought without gloves. In a taunting tone, he adds that he almost feels sorry for being his first opponent. Without responding, Minho advances and lands a punch right in his opponent's eye. Pais immediately recoils, bringing a hand to his injured eye. Calmly, Minho asks who said he was a weakling. Trying to recover, Pais starts to focus with his remaining eye. Still, he can't keep up with his opponent's movements, who quickly appears in his blind spot. Another blow hits his face. The sequence continues with another clean punch. Trying to react, Pais lunges forward to grab him. However, Minho dodges the attack. He then counterattacks with several blows to his opponent's face and chest. And GT. The other eye is also hit, and Minho delivers one final blow. Watching the scene, Min Suk Kim wonders if the fight is already ending. Amanda Grok, however, replies that it's not over yet. She explains that Pais has started blocking the attacks. Indeed, he manages to defend the following blows. Faced with this, Minho backs off for a brief moment. Soon after, his opponent lunges forward again to try and grab him. Minho manages to dodge backward at the last second. Confused, he wonders what just happened because even as he attacked, he saw something strange. Pais also seems surprised and wonders how he managed to do that. He then remembers that after starting to lose vision in his other eye, his hair stood on end as if he'd been shocked. Thus, he finally understands what he's feeling. Confidently, Pais states that he'll just close his eyes completely. Not understanding why, Minho watches his opponent close his eyes. Even without knowing what he's planning, he decides to advance. Convinced, he states that the fight is already won anyway. However, Pais manages to grab his fist in midair. The spectators watch the scene in complete silence. Minho realizes he needs to move left to escape. As he tries to retreat, he feels another hand already blocking him. With force, Pais lifts him into the air, preparing for a throw. He then slams his body violently onto the arena floor. Min Suk Kim exclaims that it was a suplex. Yu Seon-go comments that the fighter seems to have gotten stronger after injuring his eye. The assistant explains that the loss of vision activated the effects of the sensory enhancement drug. Approaching, Pais says Minho should thank him and GT, because without his help, he would have never discovered this power. Suddenly, one of Minho's fingers twitches. The next instant, a punch lands directly on Pais' face. Surprised, Yu Seon-go wonders what he will do now that he's lost vision in both eyes. Min Suk Kim can't believe Minho survived that and claims that if he keeps up the pressure, he can still win. However, the assistant clarifies that this won't be possible as he is still unconscious, leaving the president shocked. Minho remains on the ground, his fist still raised. Amanda Grok states that he needs to get up immediately. She adds that it needs to happen before Pais can find him. Pais gets up claiming he's completely blind now. A brand new sensation runs through his entire body. Then, he starts moving around the arena. Confused, he begins to wonder what all these sensations are. He soon realizes he can smell everything around him from the floor to the smallest grains of sand. On top of that, he can clearly hear his opponent's breathing. He also feels the air pressure change with his every move. Excited, Pais declares that he can now even sense what's behind him. In that moment, he understands just how insane the drug he took is. Thrilled, he admits that while he wanted a strength-focused substance, he got something even better, making him more powerful by the minute. As a sort of gift to whoever put him in this state, he decides he will finish off Minho Kim once and for all. Without hesitation, he charges toward his opponent. Lying on the ground, Minho realizes his body isn't responding as it should and calls out for his brother. The memory of his brother lying on the floor floods his mind. At that moment, he remembers his promise to find him no matter what. The memory takes him back to a man who handed him a card telling him to look for him if he wanted to find out who killed his brother. Back in the arena, Minho calls out for him again as Pais leaps to deliver the final attack. Suddenly, time seems to stop, freezing his opponent's fist just inches from his GT. Surprised, Minho opens his eyes and wonders why everything is moving so slowly. He soon understands that it's not time that has slowed down, but that he himself has become extremely fast. Pais' fist shatters the ground where his head was a second before. However, Minho had already propelled himself to the other side of the arena. In the stands, the spectators wonder what just happened. Kneeling on the broken floor, Pais questions when his opponent got over there. Minho explains that while he was bragging about his senses, there was enough time to rest, and now he's ready to get back in the fight. Hearing this, Pais realizes it's not a bluff and concludes that his opponent is even faster than before. The young man challenges him to see if he can keep up. He gets into his stance, suggesting they start with level 1. Pais then senses him coming his way. Minho Kim charges toward Pais. His punch is blocked, and he wonders if it was just luck deciding to try again. So, Minho decides to intensify the attack. He throws another punch, but Pais dodges it. The young man is surprised by his opponent's speed. He retreats as Pais dodges another blow. Miho wonders how he's managing to keep up with his speed. Pais claims he can feel everything, and GT, from his heartbeat to his movements, and now he has no blind spots. Miho realizes he has no chance with mediocre attempts and needs to risk it all. He then prepares to attack with maximum speed. The fighter lunges forward, breaking the ground with the force of his push. He announces he'll use his final blow, the right straight, but Pais hits him first with a punch to the face. Pais wonders why he fell on his own in the middle of an attack. He questions if he's okay, as he thought his own neck had been broken, and wonders if he was hallucinating again. Pais says that if he had gotten any closer, he would have broken his neck, but the kid saved his own life by tripping. Min-suk Kim notices that Miho's speed isn't working, as his opponent seems to sense the attacks in advance. So, Miho starts moving using only his footwork. Min-suk realizes he has stopped using his super speed and is relying only on normal footwork, questioning if he's tired. He wonders what a young man will do at normal speed. Min-suk yells for him to stop, warning he'll be killed, but his punch lands squarely on Pais' face. Miho Kim dodges and lands a punch on Pais' face. A spectator is amazed, commenting that he actually managed to land a punch. Then Miho moves quickly around his opponent. The young man keeps moving, breathing heavily. The spectator questions how he's going to attack if he's using all his energy on these feints. Miho lunges forward and lands another clean hit on Pais' face. The man is surprised that he landed another attack. He unleashes a series of punches to his opponent's chest. Pais again sees the images of Miho moving around him. The spectator wonders why he's still using feints when his punches are already working, but Amanda Grock explains that he's landing the attacks because of those feints. Miho then lands a hard punch to Pais' torso. Amanda explains that he became predictable when he stopped using feints after thinking his opponent could no longer see. The man asks if he's tricking his opponent into thinking his vision works. Amanda then states it's more than that. Amanda reveals that Miho is deceiving all of Pais' senses. She explains that with his new power, it would be easy for him to anticipate an attack, but he hasn't had this ability for long, and against advanced feints, his mind gets scattered. So, Miho uses the chaos to distract him. Amanda comments that the boy managed to read in a short time how much his opponent could anticipate his movements. She then concludes that Miho might be stronger than they imagined, as he dodges an attack. The young man lands another punch on Pais' face. Yu Sung-go turns and asks his assistant why he made him bet on a loser who can't even handle a kid. The assistant replies that's not the case, leaving his boss confused. And GT. He then tells him to look at Pais' face and asks if he looks like he's losing. Pais just states that he's got him, but suddenly grabs Miho from behind. He celebrates that the victory belongs to him and his senses. Pais lifts him into the air and slams him hard onto the ground. Everyone in the audience watches the scene in complete shock. The body he threw disperses. Pais wonders what happened, as he was sure he had caught him. Miho Kim remains standing, unharmed, while his opponent is on the ground. One of the spectators asks why Pais suddenly threw himself backward on his own. Amanda then explains it was because Miho attacked his brain. Sienna questions what she means by brain. She clarifies that Miho persistently hit Pais' head, giving him no rest. With each blow, his brain rattled, and the attacks continued before the vibration could stop. In this way, even someone with heightened senses couldn't maintain focus, and that's how Miho caused a failure in Pais' senses, enough to make him think he'd caught someone who wasn't there. Lying on the ground, Pais wonders how his opponent's senses can be better without the drug, finding it unfair. Pais finally collapses completely on the floor, and Miho just watches him. A drone announces that Pais can no longer fight. It then declares Miho Kim the winner, who staggers shortly after. Yu Sung-go, annoyed, slams the table and laments the outcome of the bet. Kneeling in the middle of the arena, Miho Kim looks up and calls out for his brother. Sung Yun Cha observes that this is no fight between humans, and now understands why her brothers are so involved in the tournament. Her companion then says it's not just about the fights. He explains that this place can grant everything the rich desire, not just wealth and power. It also allows them to commit murder without a trace, and take drugs that don't show up on any tests. The place is a paradise for the rich who no longer find pleasure in anything else. That's why the VIPs risk their pride so much here. And Sung Yun now understands why her second brother is trying to beat the eldest. The man adds that the director must have chosen his fighter carefully, as his recruiter knows the place well. Sung Yun states that's why they're making their move, but they'll have to see how good he is, and that will be decided in the next match, as Sian Wukong prepares himself. Someone watches Miho Kim's fight on a computer monitor. A man in a lab coat informs the wing director that all 16 whips have entered the building. The director, his face bandaged, comments that with a full house, he expects good results this year and asks about the research. He reports that they've confirmed the manifestation of the second stage of sensory enhancement, with a nearly 20% reduction in short-term side effects. But the regenerative effect they were looking for didn't appear among the participants, leading the director to question if it was a failure. The scientist denies it, saying the drug's maximum effect should start now, and that their efforts will soon bear fruit. He adds that they've discovered a new effect of the drugs, and that after examination, he believes they'll find clues about the regenerative ability. The director understands he's referring to the skin-strengthening effect, and asks when he can verify this power. The man replies that it will be very soon, as the fighter for the next match in the main arena is getting ready. Kai is sitting alone in a room, waiting. Elsewhere, Sianu Kong stretches next to a man. He advises Sinu to throw in the towel if the fight gets too tough, but the young man states that won't happen, and it shouldn't. The man then asks if he isn't even a little scared, since he doesn't seem tense at all. Sianu simply confirms that he isn't. Surprised, the man concludes that he's one of the weird ones, too. A drone approaches Sianu Kong and his companion, while Amanda Grok is sitting on the floor. The drone then requests that player Sianu Kong enter the arena. He wonders when he stopped feeling fear. Since he was young, he's been in many serious accidents that others couldn't imagine. Even in situations that seemed fatal, he always came out unharmed, and at first would cry from shock. But after a few years, it didn't matter how great the danger was. He was completely unfazed by anything. Many bullies tried to provoke him because he never got scared, and no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't make him flinch. In the end, they were the ones who became afraid of him. The only thing he fears now is his family's safety, and not an opponent like Kai. Yu Yunchan notes that it's finally starting, and asks what drug Kai received. Min Suk Kim informs him that Kai took the skin-strengthening drug, and Yu Yunchan questions how that helps him fight. He explains that it does more than just help, as Kai's previous opponent had all the skin and muscle torn from his body. Yu Yun then asks how skin strengthening leads to the opponent being torn apart. Min Suk clarifies that Kai's skin couldn't be harmed by human strength, and was so tough that it tore the opponent's skin on contact, and even the muscles were completely ripped to shreds. He then adds that many of the regular VIPs are interested in betting on him. Yu Yun reflects on who he should bet on, since Kai is a professional fighter with skin-strengthening power. Min Suk shows on a tablet that, as he predicted, everyone is betting on Kai, while no one has bet on Sianu. But suddenly he notices that someone bet 100 million won on Sianu before them. Yu Yun gets worked up and asks who would have made that bet. In another private box, Sung Yun Cha observes the situation with her companion. The man beside her asks if she's sure about her decision. She replies that you can't expect rewards without taking risks, and that she needs to try reckless things to catch up to her brothers. Sung Yun concludes that it remains to be seen whether he will bring a high return or just be a huge risk to take. The drone announces the start of the fight between Kai and Sianu Kong. Sianu gets into a fighting stance, determined to win at all costs. He then notices his opponent isn't even preparing to fight. He asks Kai what he's doing and if he wants to fight or not. Kai replies that he's a warrior, not a bully who beats up kids. Then Kai approaches and proposes a single blow with a tenth of his strength. He moves forward and tells the kid not to get up again, and he lands a powerful kick to Sianu's torso. Sianu falls to his knees on the ground. Yu Yun Cha remarks that after a blow that painful, the match's outcome is already clear. The man with glasses leans over the railing and says he needs to get out of there now, but Miho Kim states that he isn't screaming in pain, leaving the man confused. He's sure Sianu realized that Kai had no intention of attacking him, only of scaring him. The man then asks if Kai is trying to help Sianu. Miho denies it and says he just doesn't want to fight because it would be embarrassing. He thinks his reputation would be damaged if he fought seriously against a student like Sianu. So, basically, he's telling Sianu to just surrender and lose. Kai says he was supposed to pretend to be knocked out, not just scream. He continues, saying that complaining won't make a difference, and that he'll give him another chance. Sianu simply interrupts him, leaving Kai surprised as Sianu stands up and asks if he's trying to win a debate. Kai claims he'll give him a taste of his true strength, so he can fake a knockout convincingly. Kai lunges forward with a high kick towards Sianu Kong, but Sianu ducks under it and strikes his opponent's supporting leg. Everyone in the audience reacts, completely stunned by the counterattack. Kai then yells that he told him to stay on the ground. He rushes at Sianu and throws a punch. The young man leans back, narrowly dodging the attack. Kai is astonished by how far he tilted his head to dodge. Then Sianu leaps into the air, flipping over him, and lands a solid slap on Kai's head. Yu Yun Cha watches the scene, completely shocked. Kai says he was giving him another chance to act. Sianu asks if talking about giving chances isn't a bit much for someone who was just brought to his knees by a student. He states that if Kai is cowardly enough to kneel, then he's not even worth punching. Kai then decides that if he can't even fake it to save his own life, he'll have to help him out. Kai grabs Sianu's shoulders, saying he'll scare him into trying to fight. The young man is startled when he realizes he can't move. Kai then announces he'll use 50% of his strength and delivers a powerful headbutt to Sianu. Kai wonders if he used too much force as he felt pain from the blow. Then a foot comes towards him, hitting his chin. Sianu uses the momentum to land a kick on Kai's face. The impact sends Kai staggering back as Sianu lands. He wonders how the kid wasn't affected by his headbutt. Sianu stumbles slightly to the side and laments that his vision is still blurry. Kai rushes forward to throw a punch. The blow grazes him but tears Sianu's shirt. Mr. Kong is astonished, questioning how Sianu's shirt ripped like that if Kai's fist only grazed him. Miho Kim warns that he isn't finished yet. Kai then lands an elbow strike on Sianu's back in GT, and raises his fist to strike him on the head. Mr. Kong yells for him not to do it, as it will kill him. Sianu Kong falls to the ground, and Kai stands over him. Mr. Kong shouts, saying this is going too far, but Miho Kim comments that the situation is almost unbelievable, leaving the man confused. He then wonders what exactly Sianu is. Kai also questions what's wrong with the kid lying in front of him. He realizes that even before his elbow hit him, Sianu slammed his own head on the ground. Kai then wonders if that was intentional. He concludes it wasn't, and that Sianu probably wasn't thinking straight out of fear, but he still questions if the boy thinks his head is made of steel, and then Sianu starts to get up. Kai is surprised he's already getting up, and wonders how, since he heard he didn't use any drugs. Mr. Kong watches the scene in shock, not understanding what's happening. Miho just says that this means Sianu isn't a child he needs to worry about, and concludes that for some reason something about him gave him the chills. Sianu Kong gets into his stance, ready to continue the fight. Kai tells him not to force himself to look tough, as he would have left him alone if he had just faked a knockout, but the young man cuts him off, saying he's mumbling again, and challenges him to see if he's as strong as he thinks or if it's all talk. Kai concludes that to make him give up, he'll need to show him that his attacks are useless. So he opens his arms and tells Sianu to do whatever he wants, as he won't defend himself. His opponent's attitude irritates him, even though it's an advantage. Kai risked everything in his life to become the greatest combat fighter. He defeated every fighter he could find in the ring, but that wasn't enough for him. He believed that to become a true warrior, he needed to survive fights with killing intent. So he sought out the strongest criminals and killers joining their rival gangs, and fought to level up and become the greatest warrior. That's why he sees no need to take a fight against a kid seriously. Kai then encourages him to attack, claiming he won't cause him any damage. Sianu lands a direct punch to Kai's abdomen. The spectators watch the scene intently. Kai grabs his fist and states that the blow won't cause any damage, but his face suddenly shows surprise. Sianu simply says he'll land another one. He then lands another punch, this time in the pit of Kai's stomach. Kai is stunned, not understanding what's happening. Sianu continues the attack with a high kick towards him, but Kai manages to block the kick with his arm. Annoyed, he prepares a counterattack. Sianu realizes he needs to dodge the impending attack. Kai hits him with a powerful punch to the chest, tearing his shirt and his chest. The young man is surprised by the blow, thinking he needs to get away from him. He takes a few steps back as Kai prepares to attack again. Kai asks how many more chances he needs to give him. Sianu simply lets out a laugh. Surprised, Kai asks if he just laughed. Sianu then asks if he forgot what he just said. He rips his own shirt off, revealing a muscular physique. The spectator with glasses is amazed and asks where all that muscle came from. Sianu then taunts him, asking why he defended himself. Kai turns and admits what he did. He acknowledges that Sianu isn't just some kid who was dragged here for a show, but he warns him not to forget that he was the one who forced him to do this. He unleashes his full power and declares he's using 100%. A smile appears on Sianu Kang's face. The man in glasses wonders why Sianu is smiling, questioning if he's lost his mind over the situation, but Amanda Grock says that actually he looks pretty excited. He gets worked up, pointing out that their opponent is about to attack with full force. She explains that Sianu is excited because a strong opponent like Kai has finally acknowledged him. The man in glasses doesn't understand how he can think about that with his life on the line. Amanda then reveals she used to feel the same way. She says her opponents never took her seriously at first because she was a woman, but after a while they would start fighting with everything they had, and that got her so excited her heart would start pounding. He tells her to calm down, asking why she's smiling now too. Miho Kim then speaks up, saying he knows that excitement too. He recalls how everyone looked down on him for being a small, weak kid back then. The only thing that made him feel alive was dodging their punches, and then he'd land a direct hit on his opponent. Miho Kim smiles, saying it was the look on their faces when they finally recognized him as a real fighter. The man in glasses sighs, starting to understand. He concludes that Sianu has the heart of a fighter too. In the ring, the two opponents rush toward each other. Sianu decides he'll strike first. He throws a punch at Kai, who blocks it with his arm. Mr. Kong comments on the sound of the impact, believing Kai was surprised by the power, but Sianu realizes his opponent's skin is like concrete. Kai warns him that he's going to return the favor. With one punch, he slams Sianu to the ground. The spectator feels the ground shake and declares that Kai is on another level. The force of the impact sends Sianu flying into the air. Lying on the ground, Sianu struggles to breathe. The man in glasses points out that Sianu managed to dodge the blow, but Miho Kim corrects him, stating he didn't dodge it completely. A wound appears on Sianu's back. He feels an unfamiliar sensation. Then Sianu wonders if he's scared. He glares at his opponent and asks himself if he's feeling fear because of him. Kai challenges him to just admit it and states that Sianu will never be able to beat him. Sianu tells him to shut up, saying he's not the only monster here. He braces himself and says that anything Kai can do, he can do too, as he lunges forward with an attack. Sianu's attack misses its mark. He lands on the ground after the move. Kai then announces that it's his turn. The spectator with glasses realizes he's going for a headbutt. Sianu hits Kai with a headbutt. He then declares that anything his opponent can do, he can do too. Lying on the ground, Sianu trembles and gasps for air. Kai claims the fight is already over, as Sianu's attacks lack skill and are just brute force. A smile appears on Sianu's face. His opponent is surprised and asks why he's smiling. Kai then approaches and says that if he won't give up, then he'll end the fight for him. The man in glasses wonders about the source of the heat, noticing that Sianu's blood and sweat are evaporating. Sianu reveals he never liked fighting because being dragged into all those brawls made him feel like a monster, but he wonders if this place is getting to him because he can't stop smiling. Then he admits he can't contain the urge to fight this guy. As Kai lunges forward, Sianu jumps and kicks him in the face. Then he grabs his opponent's head in midair. Kai is shocked, saying he's too fast. Sianu headbutts him in midair. He spins him around after the impact and violently throws him against the wall. Kai watches Sianu recover and states that he barely seems human. The young man then leaps and smashes his head against the structure. He holds him tightly and says, "Got you." Sianu lands a direct punch to his opponent's face. He follows up with a flurry of rapid blows to Kai's body. A final punch sends him flying backward. He wonders what kind of drugs Sianu took. He then questions if his opponent ever gets tired as he charges forward again. Kai manages to land a kick on Sianu. He loses his balance, and Kai tries a second kick, but misses. Sianu then lands 2 direct punches to his face. Kai is stunned by the blows. Sianu lands an uppercut to his chin. The spectators watch the scene in silence. He remains motionless after the exchange. Mr. Kong asks if Kai is dead from all the bleeding, but Amanda Grok says that blood doesn't belong to Kai. She then reveals the blood is coming from Sianu's fists. The young man starts to feel as if he's intoxicated and feels his entire body tearing apart from the inside. Sung Young Cha wonders how Kai is still able to stand. The man in sunglasses explains that his skin acts like armor, causing more damage to Sianu's fists. She then asks if her companion has any chance against Kai at all. He in turn admits he's never felt that kind of pain before, but his opponent seems to have reached his limit, barely able to open his eyes. Kai decides to break Sianu's legs to end the fight and charges forward, but the young man manages to block his kick. Kai doesn't understand how he can still react so quickly. Sianu lands a punch on his face. His own fist tears from the impact. Seeing this, Kai decides to fight until one of them is torn to pieces and rushes into attack. The two exchange a violent flurry of blows. Sianu wonders if his attacks are even working since he can no longer feel his own fists. He realizes he can't keep this up. Kai realizes the kid is landing his attacks flush, so the skin on his fists won't be torn off. He feels a strange sensation in his fist. Without understanding why, he feels his punches getting weaker and decides not to waste any more time. Kai then sees an opening in Sianu's guard and decides to use the move he's trained for over a decade. He prepares to deliver a low kick. The blow lands squarely on Sianu's leg. Kai follows up with another kick, screaming that his opponent's legs are finished. Sianu blocks the kick with his own shin. The man with glasses is stunned, realizing he countered the blow with his shin. The young man's leg shatters on impact. From the sound, the spectator concludes the bone must be broken. Sianu grits his teeth against the pain. He realizes his muscles have torn and he can no longer move. Kai moves in for the final attack. He then yells that the fight is over, but Kai's kick is stopped at the last moment. Kai doesn't understand what just happened. He drops to his knees. Kai wonders if this is a dream. Everyone in the audience watches the scene in shock. Sianu remains standing over Kai's fallen body. Woo Hyun Cha turns to his assistant and asks what's going on. Min Seo Kim explains that the skin-strengthening drug only led to more accumulated damage. He continues saying that Kai's bones took the blows directly, but the drug kept him from feeling pain. Now, Kai's arms and legs are likely covered in fractures. The drone announces that Kai can no longer continue to fight. It then declares Sianu Kong the winner of the match, and he shouts in celebration. The man with glasses despairs, questioning why he won't fall as if he were a zombie. Miho Kim watches and comments that the boy, Sianu, might be hiding something. Lying on the ground, Sianu asks his mother to hold on just a little longer. In a room, a bandaged figure asks if they're sure the boy didn't use any drugs. An assistant confirms the records say he didn't.